Good morning to you.
Good morning, sir. How are you?
We are hazed, gray, and underway. Oh,
Yes,
man.
sir. Good weekend.
It's good to see you.
You
I don't
too.
know where Josh is. He's like right there. So, hey, good
Yes.
morning. So,
Is he
well,
doing music today?
look at you are.
No, is he doing music today? Is that why he's running late?
I think he is involved in music, but he's at his desk, so
Ah,
I don't know.
okay.
So,
Well, it looks
good
like
morning,
it's.
buddy.
I don't know if it's you or me, but there's a little hesitation on your side. So so I don't know if y'all are having issues or if it's on my
Okay.
end, but it's just a little. You kind of just jump a little bit on your picture, so it's. I mean, it's fine. Audio's fine.
How's that? Hey, pretty girl, come here. Look who I have making her first debut on TV.
Hello. You have a donut?
Yeah, it's Pig in a Blanket.
Oh, pig in a blanket.
Yeah, for those who may not know, this is Mia, our grandbaby. Our grandbaby. You ready to go? I love you.
Go have
I
fun.
love you.
Oh,
Yeah,
they're
that's
awesome.
good right there. Yeah, that is good. So,
Well,
yeah, I don't know. Maybe Josh fell asleep. He's only been in there like 60 seconds. So,
well, he might have, celebrated a little too hard for that A&M victory.
yes. There's
You
no
know,
telling. There's probably people still on that field.
yeah, he might have. Who knows?
Yeah, I was
Went
pulling
out
for
and
him.
just.
So,
Yeah, oh yeah. I'm
oh, wait a
Texas.
minute. Wait,
I
oh,
pull.
there he is.
I pull for anyone that plays Alabama. Let me just put it that way.
Yes, absolutely.
Congratulations, sir. Oh, see, he's speechless.
That's right. He's like Zachariah. He's just without words. He can't speak to it. So, well, I'm the
That's good.
only pastor in town that has the courage to try to teach a message from a lady's point of view. That'll be 10 o'clock. So,
Okay.
yeah,
That
we're
should be
looking at
interesting.
John's origin story from his mother's perspective. So,
Okay.
it takes two to tango, and it takes two to,
Yeah.
make a baby. So,
Hey, it's big day for ALF today. So
yes, and I believe I know where we're going, but you don't know until you go, right?
hope so.
But could be exciting, and it'd be nice to be able to take on a couple of the real gorilla needs here,
Mm-hmm.
and
Paul from across
that's
the
close
street.
as you can be without being here. So
That's good.
he's at his new home across the street, so he's literally across the street.
That's good.
He could
Yeah.
probably stand with binoculars and watch us to some degree. So, but
Well, we'll
yeah.
have our on. If something happens, we can call him, and he can drive over here real quick, and he'll be our security.
Yeah.
So we had a big football weekend, didn't we?
We did. Well, I tell you, I had a ticket offered to me for the OU Texas, but with the ministry responsibilities this week, I was behind, and I had to decline because ministry is always convenient, Jeff.
I know.
And so I thought, well, I'll watch it on my iPad while I'm here at work. Well, I don't understand it, but my particular package didn't make the game available to me on my iPad, so I had to find it somewhere on the intranet and listen to it. But
old school.
What an incredible game! Just I would have loved to have won, but all you can hope for is a great game, and that sounds like it was one of the greatest in the history of the contest. So, kudos to
High
all of
scoring
them.
affair.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Update on Joshua. his browser has crashed and he will be on in a minute. So,
so who are you, online professor, this morning?
I am not, but it's
you may
Josh.
about
If you make, because it's always convenient. Joshua, good morning.
Yeah, I got 10 minutes. Calm down. I'll be right.
There it is. Okay. All right.
Well,
I was just telling to warm it up just in case.
Well, my Google Chrome browser completely failed on me, and it won't let me use it through Safari. So I had Firefox. I was trying to get that to work. That's how it popped on. That wasn't working, so I had to re-download Chrome. So I don't know what's going on, but
that's weird. Wow. Well, y'all are a little choppy this morning. Just to let you know, am I?
No, you're good.
Okay.
I'm getting a low Wi-Fi strength, but I'm on the 5G, so I don't know.
Okay, maybe it'll
just
catch up.
Yeah, like anyone can know.
Josh has got his frozen look.
He does. He's really good at quiet water, still water.
Yeah.
I might need to reset our Wi-Fi. It's real bad.
Yeah, it's if you need to take the moment to do that for sure. Y'all are a little choppy.
Yeah, Jeff, you're gonna have to hold it slow for a second. Let me reset this because it is we're getting nothing.
All right, you got it. You guys get reset, and
I'll hold on, Jack. I'll hold on.
Let's see, is he going to do?
It's how bad it is Josh isn't even at his desk right this moment.
I know, but look at him. Isn't he so handsome?
I'm telling you, he looks.
All right, well, there goes the pastor. So it looks like we have Josh looking, stoic and handsome there, and then Jimmy was in mid-sentence and mid-blink. So we'll get that for a minute. So they will pop back on. So it's good to have everyone this morning. Samuel, good morning. Buddy, John, good to have you this morning. So don't want to, we threw a tease out there about it's going to be a good day for ALF. We hope anyway. We have a short business meeting at the end of the service. So we'll be voting on the sale of a portion of our land to the, I guess, northwest of us, kind of down towards Super One. If you're familiar with that, it's that land there that we do not use nor have plans to use. So hopefully we'll get a positive vote on that this morning. We got our asking price, so what more can you ask for, I guess. So, and then hopefully we'll use those funds to fix up the campus just a bit. We need a new roof. Not a new roof. We need to repair our roof. We have parking lot issues, so hopefully we can address that, and then maybe do something a little bit more fun and exciting with a little bit of money, maybe for our kids. So we'll see. We haven't settled on anything, but we have a long list of projects to do and a short list of funds to do it. So we'll see how that goes. But I'm sure things will go well with that. So we're in October. We got Halloween coming up. We had Texas OU this weekend. So even though the Horns didn't win, I know that a lot of my Aggie friends are happy that they won, and my Boomer Sooner friends are happy that they came back and won. So that is awesome for them. I'm just happy that Alabama lost. So call me shallow, but that's the way that goes. So anyone who plays Alabama, I root for and want them to lose. It's kind of the way it was with Tom Brady and the Patriots. Anybody who played the Patriots is who I was rooting for. But Cowboys have a big game today, so we'll see how it goes with that. And things going pretty well. I'll give a shout out to my John. Let's see if I can share that. Let's see. I am right there with you. Now, I am the one that needs to give out the good candy, because I figure if there's anything left, I want to make sure and it goes in our candy bowl, and I've got something great to eat at the time. And then also, I don't want to get egged or something if somebody gets, jujubes or something like that. That's not very good to eat. So, Joshua,
Jujubes.
yeah, whatever those things are called. What are those little gummy things that stick in your teeth? What are those
Yeah, I
things
know what you're
called?
talking about. I don't know. I was homeschooled. We never had candy.
Oh, you had popcorn or something, right? Popcorn balls.
Just apples.
Of course, that was
fruit.
just fruit is all you got. I know. We used to always get an apple or an orange or a banana in our stocking at Christmas. That the banana just fits right in that stocking. That's just made for that. But Santa has carried on that tradition. I guess I shouldn't say, just in case somebody's watching. I don't want to blow it for some parent out there right now. So
Yeah, we celebrated Reformation Day,
there you go.
which was that's the homeschool version of Halloween.
Yeah.
So my mom would read to us all 95 of Martin Luther's theses, and then I'm just kidding.
and then you cut up fruit.
yeah, exactly. And we throw them at Catholics.
Yeah, maybe dip it in caramel. Maybe.
Yeah, the caramel sugar is a sin. We eat. My wife, I think, keeps going back down. So if I freeze up, then we'll just have to deal with it. I reset it, but it's still being cranky.
Sure. And Jimmy just decided to go teach.
I guess, yeah, I think so.
Yeah, which is fine. Let's see. This is way better than ESPN, best post and pregame ever. I don't know about that, Justin, but man, I appreciate it. It's pretty tough when they go to third string to carry on a conversation because I have like 3 words. I can say a lot in 5 to 6 words, and for me to carry on, a broadcast is pretty boring. But I appreciate the vote of confidence there, Justin.
You just need awesome. A list of things to go through.
Yeah, well, I covered Texas OU, I covered A&M, I covered, I hated on Alabama a little bit, so that might have get me some upward scores. Touched on Halloween, but I was business meeting. Boy, I was running out of material. So
most of those guys only have 3 words. Yeah, that's true.
That's right.
They just yell them. They say them real loud. So if you say anything slowly and loudly, it sounds like you know what you're talking about.
Good morning, Caleb.
Are we still having the choppy issues with me?
No, you're good.
Okay, good. It's still going in and out. All right, cool.
See, and I would have since Caleb's joined now, and I know he knows to get on StreamYard. I said, hey, man, throw a hat on if you're not pretty already this morning and come join me. That's what I'd have done. So, Caleb, you be ready.
Let's see, Sunday at 10. He's probably not all pretty. He'd probably need a hat.
No, that's all right. He looks good anytime, I'm sure.
He'd probably be wearing his Oklahoma University hat.
I'm sure he would. So, all right. Well, you've got it this morning, right? And I'll
come back on if I freeze, I guess.
Yeah. I'll quickly scan the internet for topics of discussion, and then I'll. All right. We'll see you in a bit.
All right. Oh, man. So, obviously, we're having some technical difficulties this morning. Bear with us. We appreciate you guys being on this Sunday morning. And I've got a topic kind of today. We'll primarily just look at a couple passages. And it's always interesting when I'm praying through and trying to think of what to talk as far as Sunday school. Because in the main study I've got it. There's a series we're going through, and in these online I kind of do these one-offs. And I was thinking about this last night, and one of the things that made me think about it was actually sports. When somebody wins in sports, they always, or very often, they thank God. So you'll see that from whether it's college football or even Tyson Fury last night. The Gypsy King, he was fighting Deontay Wilder, and he's at the end of the round, the end of the match, he's wearing a hat that says Jesus, and he's thanking God for his victory. And it just makes me I'd already been thinking about this, but let's turn to Daniel 3. I know Jimmy has gone through this story recently, but it's kind of been on the front of my mind, and I wanted to talk about it because I think it's something that we as Christians look at it a certain way, and we treat it a certain way, and then those who aren't Christians look at us and they look at us and they think it's ridiculous that we treat it this way. And it might be. It might be. So let's go to Daniel 3, 13 through 18. And I just want to read this passage. It's not too long. You know the story. But there are some words here that I want us to pay particular attention to because there's a concept that's embedded here in this passage in Daniel 3 that I think sometimes we don't put into practice. There's a concept about God, who he is, that I don't know if all of the and I'm not saying that these athletes aren't Christians, but some of them might be cultural Christians, and they think, well, they know their mom or dad taught them, maybe they grew up in church, that it's the right thing to do when things go well to thank God. So Daniel 3, 13 and 18, Nebuchadnezzar's built the statue. He's had Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, or if you're a VeggieTale watcher, it's Rakshak and Benny. And they are Israelites, and Israel had been exiled to Babylon, and they were leaders of the Israelites. They were known to Nebuchadnezzar. They weren't just three random people. And they wouldn't bow to the giant statue that Nebuchadnezzar had made of himself. So in verse 13, it says, furious with rage, Nebuchadnezzar summoned Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. So these men were brought before the king, and Nebuchadnezzar said to them, is it true that you do not serve my gods or worship the image of gold that I have set up? So not only are they not worshiping the image of Nebuchadnezzar, but they're also not worshiping the Babylonian gods. Now, when you hear the sound of the horn, flute, zither, lyre, harp, pipe, and all kinds of music, if you are ready to fall down and worship the image I made, very good. So he's saying here, if you hear anything, if you hear a horn, a flute, a harp, if you hear any kind of music that could symbolize it's time for a worship service, I want you to be ready to fall down immediately and worship that image. But if you do not worship it, you'll be thrown immediately into a blazing furnace. So obviously that's a pretty critical decision they have to make. This is a life or death decision they're having to make. And then Nebuchadnezzar says something really interesting. He says, then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand? So Nebuchadnezzar believes in gods. He evidently believes his own hype that he is a god. And he's saying, if I throw you into a blazing furnace, well, you're just going to burn up. Nobody's going to be able to save you. What God is going to be able to save you? And the Babylonians and a lot of those cultures back then, they had a different kind of idea of gods. God, there was in Babylon multiple gods. They weren't all powerful. There was kind of a chief god. El was one of the chief gods. Baal. That's Canaanite, but they had the Babylonian version of that. I'm not completely sure what the Babylonian pantheon was, but they had multiple gods, several gods, and they weren't all powerful. In fact, they were kind of sometimes, you'd have maybe a patron, a god, one that you were trying to curry favor from this god, and there's this other god. And anyway, what Nebuchadnezzar is saying is none of these gods can rescue you from me if I throw you into this furnace. Nebuchadnezzar never says that Yahweh, the God that the Israelites worship, isn't a God. He probably threw him in with the pantheon. But he doesn't have any faith in Yahweh as the ultimate God or as the only God. So he says, then what God will be able to rescue you from my hand? Verse 16, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego replied to him, King Nebuchadnezzar, we do not need to defend ourselves before you in this matter, which is a pretty shocking statement. If we are thrown into the blazing furnace, the God we serve, Yahweh, is able to deliver us from it. So they first off, and they negate the very reason they're there. We shouldn't even be here. We shouldn't have to defend ourselves here because you're not a God. You're not God. Second, he asked what God will be able to rescue you from my hand. Well, our God could. And then they say, and he will deliver us. So they're confident that he's going to deliver them. I don't know why they were that confident, but they were confident that he was going to deliver them. and he will deliver us from your majesty's hand. And then this is the key in verse 18. But even if he does not, we want you to know, your majesty, that we will not serve your gods or worship the image of gold you have set up. That even if he does not. So, even if God doesn't deliver them, Yahweh doesn't deliver them, well, first off, they're dead. But second, they're not going to worship, they're not going to serve Nebuchadnezzar's gods or worship the image of gold. They don't even recognize him as a god, obviously. It's just a man-made image. They're not going to serve their gods because they know that they're not true. Those gods aren't real. They know that Yahweh is real and true. They know that he's able to deliver them, and they have a confidence that he's going to deliver them. But even if he doesn't, they're still not going to believe in these other gods. Even if he doesn't, they're still going to have faith. And there's no guarantee that they would make it out. There's no guarantee that any of us are going to reach some, ripe old age and die peacefully in our beds at 85 or 90 or whatever it is. You look at, and it doesn't matter how close you are to God. That's the interesting thing, is the closer you are to God, the closer your relationship is with Jesus in the New Testament, the more often you were killed. So all the apostles were martyred. Jesus' best friends were all martyred. They were all killed except for John. And he's tortured. Legend tells us he's tortured, and then he's exiled to the island of Patmos. All of the apostles were martyred. And, I told the story in one of my sermons about Peter wanting to be crucified upside down because he didn't want to die the same way that Jesus did. But they all counted it joy. They all counted it a privilege to be martyred for Jesus. So not only is there no guarantee that we're going to quote unquote make it out, there's no guarantee that Rakshak and Benny were going to make it out, although they had a confidence that God was going to deliver him, and he did. But the closer you are to Jesus, the more dangerous it is. What they do to Jesus, we have this idea that Jesus is such a loving person. A person seems like the wrong word to use, but you know what I mean. I mean, he did take on flesh, so he's a person. Jesus is such a loving being that if he came to earth right now, we act like all of the Christians, there's so many Christians here in America, we'd all love him and we'd elect him president. Jesus was tortured and killed by his government, and the same thing would happen. There's a book called Joshua that has nothing to do with me. It's a novel basically about if Jesus came to earth today, what would happen. It's pretty good. And the thing is that if Jesus came to earth today, instead of 2,000 years ago, if now is when the time that God had decreed for him to come the first time, we would have done the same thing to him that they did. He would have been killed. The closer you are to Jesus, the more dangerous it is, because the world hates Jesus. And the world hates those who love him, those who are following him. In Matthew 5:10, you don't have to turn there, but you can. Matthew 5:10 in the Beatitudes, where Jesus is saying, blessed are, blessed are, blessed are. And a couple verses before this, my favorite verse in the whole Bible, Matthew 5:8, blessed are the pure in heart, for they will see God. Matthew 5:10, a couple verses later, says, blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness. That's a clear thing. It's not just any persecution. We like to throw that word around. Okay, none of us have ever experienced the persecution that the early Christians are talking about. None of us have. Okay, and hopefully none of us will. And none of us have been persecuted because of righteousness, the way that the apostles were, the way that Jesus was, the way that the early church was. Blessed are those who are persecuted because of righteousness, for theirs is the kingdom of heaven. The kingdom of heaven belongs to who? To those who are persecuted because of righteousness. In the Bible, it's a good thing. It's considered a blessing, a privilege to be persecuted because of righteousness. This idea of even if he does not. I think sometimes our cultural Christianity has the idea that we're just trying to make it to the end. We want to die at 90 in our sleep and just go to heaven. We want heaven on earth and heaven in heaven. But that's not how the Bible tells us. That's not what the Bible tells our hope or our plan or our purpose on earth should be, our focus. And I don't like this. I wish that was. I wish the Bible said, hey, if you're a Christian, good news. You're never going to get sick. You're never going to die before your time. You're going to just be able to live until you're an old man or woman and find your sleep and go to heaven. I wish that's how it was. But that's not how it is. A friend recently told me that one of his friends became an atheist because he asked God to heal one of his parents from an illness, and that parent died from that illness. God didn't heal that person. So he doesn't believe in God. And if you're going to pick a reason not to believe in God, that's a pretty good one. There's obviously reasons why I think that's faulty, but that's not a flippant reason to not believe in God. That's a terrible question to wrestle with. If God can heal, and we know that he does, why does he only do it sometimes? And why only some people? What they said in Daniel, but even if he does not, even if he doesn't save us, they said, we're still not going to worship these other gods. We're still only going to worship Yahweh. Can you say the same? Can you say, but even if he does not? Can I say, but even if he does not? They knew that the gods of Babylon weren't real. They knew that Nebuchadnezzar wasn't a god. They knew that God, Yahweh, was real. And he was God regardless of whether he delivered them from death or not. Why does God deliver some and not others? I have no idea. And neither does anyone else. If anybody else tells you, and they give you a reason, well, God saved or delivers these people because they have greater faith or whatever it is, they're lying to you. They have no idea because the Bible doesn't explain it to us. The Bible doesn't tell us why. Jesus, in fact, is talking about this, and he says, the Tower of Siloam fell on these people. Do you think you're any more righteous than them? You think you're better than they are because this tower fell on them and it didn't fall on you? No. We have no idea. I have no idea why he delivers some and not others. But one point I want to make is that the key to life is not for God to save you so that you can grow old. We would all like that. But that nowhere in Scripture is that our purpose. So it's not a contest to see how old we can get before we reach eternity. So what happened to Rakshak and Benny? If you go back to Daniel 3, in verse 24, we stopped in 18. In verse 24, it says, and King Nebuchadnezzar leaped to his feet and asked his advisors, weren't there 3 men we tied up and threw into the fire? They replied, certainly, your majesty. He said, look, I see 4 men walking around in the fire, unbound and unharmed, and the 4th looks like a son of the gods. Jesus was there with them. That's the point. Not that Jesus rescued them, because even if he didn't, he's still God. The point of that story, we focus on the deliverance, and it is miraculous. There's nothing wrong pointing out that Jesus was with them in the fire and he rescued them from that. But that's not the point. The point is not that he delivered them. The point is that he was with them in the midst of it. And that's the promise that we have. Not that we'll be delivered from calamity, because we all know we won't all be delivered from calamity. We won't all get better from COVID, for example. Why does Bobby recover miraculously and other people we know not? Well, we don't know. That's not the point. The point is not to try and figure out why certain people reach 90 and some don't even reach 30. That's not the point. The point is that whatever we go through, Jesus is with us. That's the promise that God gives us. If you look in, and it's in the New Testament and in the Old Testament. So very, very quickly, I'm going to read to you Deuteronomy 31:6. Deuteronomy 31:6 says this. Be strong and courageous. This is Moses speaking to the people of Israel. Be strong and courageous. And this is talking about when they're going to cross into the promised land. Be strong and courageous. Do not fear or tremble before them, for the Lord your God is the one who is going with you. He will not fail or abandon you. Or another translation says, he will not leave nor forsake you. And that's actually repeated in Hebrews. There's other places too, but I just picked a couple passages. Hebrews 13:5 says this. He actually quotes from Deuteronomy 31:36. He says at the end of verse 5, I will never leave you, and I will never abandon you. So we can say with confidence, and he quotes Psalm 118, the Lord is my helper, and I will not be afraid. What can man do to me? What can man do to me? They can kill you, but they can't separate you from God. That's the point. Nothing can separate you from God. Paul goes on and says, what can separate us from the love of Christ? Basically nothing. And he has all these, contrasts. Either any power in heaven or earth or under the earth, all that stuff. He'll never leave us or forsake us. It might not always feel like that. It might not always feel like God is there, but he is. God is there with you. It's promised throughout Scripture, in all covenants. God promises that he will never leave you. He will never forsake you. He will always be there with you, even if it doesn't feel like he is. Things might happen to you. A horrible, awful thing. Struggles that I can't imagine. You might say, well, this isn't the cheery, bright Sunday morning message that I want. But this is profound, and we miss it. And I say we, I don't necessarily mean this church, but I mean we as like a Christian culture seem to miss this. That's why we have a health, wealth, and prosperity gospel. Put that in big quotes. I don't know why you or I or I've been blessed. I haven't had to really struggle with much. I don't know why we have to go through things like that. I don't know why we have to go through the fire sometimes. But I do know that when you have, that you don't have to do it alone. There's only one person that God ever forsook. There's only one person that God ever turned his back on, and that's Jesus on the cross. That's why Jesus cried out on the cross, my God, why have you forsaken me? That's the only time God has ever turned his back on someone. That's the only time where God has ever forsaken someone. When Jesus was bearing the punishment of sin. None of us will ever feel that, at least none of us Christians. None of us will ever feel, we focus on the cross and the immense physical pain, and that's fine to focus on that because it was incredibly painful. But lots of people died on Roman crosses. I mean, there was a story where the Pharisees were rebelling and they crucified hundreds of them on the road. Lots of people died on crosses, but only one person ever had God turn his back on them. That was Jesus. There's only one person who died on the cross alone, truly alone, and that was Jesus. So let me encourage you. I do want this to be encouraging. Let me encourage you that if you feel like you're going through something alone, you're not. You aren't. God is with you. And that's not me telling you that. That's God telling you that. That's God in the Old Testament. That's God in the New Testament. He will never leave you nor forsake you, no matter what happens, no matter what it feels like. And the last encouragement I want to leave you with before Jeff comes back and maybe corrects any of my heresy. I love this passage. It's underlined in every Bible that I have, and it's the first part of Revelation 21. It's at the end of the book, basically. It's Revelation 22, but it's the second to last chapter. And it says this in Revelation 21, 1 through 5, the beginning of 5. Then I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the first heaven and the first earth had passed away, and there was no longer any sea. And one of the reasons there's no longer any sea was because the sea was like this chaotic thing. So it's basically saying there's order to everything. There's no more chaos. I saw the holy city, the New Jerusalem, coming down out of the heaven from God. Heaven comes to earth. Prepared as a bride, beautifully dressed for her husband. And I heard a loud voice from the throne saying, look, God's dwelling place is now among people. And if you read Ezekiel 36 and 37 and Jeremiah 31, this is the promise of the new covenant. This is what we've been trying to get back to since Eden. Since Eden, we've been trying to get back to God's dwelling place is now with us, now among people. This is verse 3. Look, God's dwelling place is now among the people. And that's the promise of the new covenant, Jeremiah 31, Ezekiel 36, 37. And he will dwell with them. God will be with us. They will be his people. And God himself will be with them and be their God. He will wipe away every tear from their eyes. There will be no more death or mourning or crying or pain, for the old order of things has passed away. And he who is seated on the throne said, I make all things new. That's the encouragement I have for you this morning. Not that God's going to deliver you out of the fire, but that he's going to be with you through it. And with that, I'll bring Jeff back on.
Ooh, good stuff, my friend. So, wow. What a beautiful, beautiful passage of just God's faithfulness, where he's, no pun intended, I was going to say, with us in the fire, whatever our fire is. But, just, an amazing, amazing example and encouragement to us, not only with the encouragement you left us with, but even if God, that's an encouragement as well. And as you know, well, I don't want to go there first. I want to start at the front and come down. So, cultural Christian. I mean, it's great that folks praise God, after a touchdown or after a fight or after they get a job or whatever the case is, at least, God's on their mind. But we have to be careful with that. Do we thank God during the trials too, during the tribulations, when things aren't going as well? Are we consistent with that thankfulness and that gratefulness? And so I would just caution us, all on that. I'm sure I've been there myself, where when I'm on the mountain, yay God, when I'm in the valley, it's oh me, type thing. So yeah, just be careful of that. And that, I don't want to make light of it, and I don't even roll my eyes when I see it on TV with folks, because at least God is on their mind at that moment.
Yeah.
You don't know if it's show, but
the tough thing is, what if does God not love the other fighter, or God doesn't love the other team? And I think it's because I didn't really tie this together very well, but in my mind, what I'm trying to get at is that we thank God for those things because we associate earthly blessing with his favor on us. And sometimes that is true. I mean, in Proverbs, there's a lot of if you are faithful, then God does bless you, or he will bless you. He might bless you, but he might not, because the point is not that, okay, do well, obey God because you're going to get something from it, but rather you should obey God because of who he is. And whatever happens with that, whether it's martyrdom or $1 million, you thank God for all that. And that's why we thank God whether we're at the high. That's why Paul says, hey, I've been starving, I've been full, I've been warm, I've been freezing, I've been in the ocean for 3 days. And he says, I'm content in all of it, not because he's a sadist or because he doesn't have feelings, but because he recognizes that the providence of God is not that I'm always warm, I'm always full, I'm always safe. It's that God is always with me. And I think if we can, and that's to me as much to everyone else, we can shift our perspective on that, because the world looks at us and they go, man, you only thank God when things are going well. So what happens when things aren't going well? And that's why this person that I mentioned is an atheist, because God didn't answer his prayer. And I'm not being flippant about that. That's just, if anything, that's a mark against us as cultural, our cultural Christianity that kind of portrays it as, if God loves you, he'll bless you.
Yeah. And, this has been touched on a little bit from all three of us, you, Jimmy, and I, over the past couple months, probably. Our joy is produced through our obedience to God. That, and I know I'm kind of putting that in the few words, but yeah, our joy in this life, regardless of circumstances, regardless of what the worldly blessings are, our joy comes from our obedience. So that's great. And then, hey, and I'm not going to be over. I don't know why I always qualify this. I should just give God the glory and not worry about it. But where he says, July 26th, when my life could have been required, I told my family that next morning, I said, even if God would have required my life that Monday night, he is still faithful. He is still gracious. He is still good. And I want you to always remember that, because I may not be here to tell you that or remind you of that. If I go quickly, remember that God is faithful.
Amen.
God is. So, but man, these guys in the fire saying, I'm not gonna bow down. But when it said, when you're mentioning, even if you hear some music or something that reminds you of worship, that's when you need to bow down. What is our trigger point? They're wanting us to, do we have things in our life that remind us to, because sometimes we can go through our life and not thank God. If we follow the acts of prayer and all, the little acts thing, that's Thanksgiving's there. But, I was thinking, well, what kind of things in our life can be a trigger point, a positive trigger point, for us? And, I don't know, it might be maybe when the sun rises. I don't know.
Well, that's a good point, because you look at the Muslims, they pray, I can't remember if it's 3 or 5 times a day. I mean, they have regiments. And, when somebody, I don't know if it was, preached on spiritual disciplines recently, I think there was like a 3-part message. But that's a great point. We look at like the traditions and we go, well, if somebody has a tradition, if they have they pray every day at noon or whatever it is, well, that can become old and stale and ritualistic. Well, there's a reason that most faiths and even most quote unquote high church Christian traditions, Catholicism, these other ones, have more regimented traditional prayer and things. It's because we're really fickle people. And I agree. We develop your own triggers, positive triggers, for practicing your spiritual disciplines, for worshiping God, for praying to Him, for those kind of things. Whatever it is that works for you, I agree. I mean, that is key. And that's a good point.
Well, our spiritual disciplines end up being, we just can't wake up and say we're going to be disciplined, right?
No.
We have to have a routine to get us to that point where it becomes muscle memory, where it becomes natural.
Yep.
Right.
You're always going to be motivated. You got to be disciplined.
That's why these great athletes can just, do a one-handed catch, because it's all muscle memory. They could kind of just, they've done it 100 times or 1,000 times or 10,000 times. So
The Rock posting at like 7 p.m. on a Friday, this Friday, he was like, man, I'm working out. It's not when I wanted to, but I have to, or it's like, I got to get it in. And so I'm doing it tonight, and he'll do it whenever.
That's right. So
you got to work out your spiritual muscles.
Absolutely. And then just kind of back to the, I don't want to gloss over it, but God's deliverance, and your point, it's not that He's delivered you from that He is with you all the way through it, beginning, during, end. And if we come out at the other side, awesome. If we don't, awesome. And hopefully we can all get to a point where we are praising God and joyful despite the circumstances in our life, and to understand that God is faithful regardless. God is faithful. God is loving. And I don't know why. Some people are spared things and some people are not. And it's, from a worldly standpoint and a humanistic standpoint, it's discouraging, it's frustrating, it's we can go through all those types of emotions, right? But I want the best for people. I don't want to see people suffer when their loved ones die, or an illness or financial difficulty or relationship issues. I don't know why that happens, but a lot of times it's our own choices that get us there.
Yes, sometimes it's the consequence of our own actions. And I sometimes wonder if God looks at, of course I can't imagine what God thinks or does, but we have an eternity. In this life, in Scripture, it's talked about as a breath. And so I'm not trying to be flippant about it, because it's very important, and we only have one life to lead here. And there are things we can do here that we can't do in heaven. Mm-hmm. What I mean by that is, for instance, preach the gospel and help lead people to Jesus. There's going to be none of that in heaven, things like that. But our life, whether it's 30 years or 130 years, in the light of eternity, is a breath, is a moment, is a whisper, it says. And so I almost wonder if sometimes we're so focused onto holding on to every second of this life that we can, that we're missing the perspective of, we're here. God already knows. Jimmy always says you're invincible until God calls you home, and that doesn't mean go be stupid and drive in traffic with blinders on or something. But just the idea that God sees everything. He knows when He's calling you home. He knows when He's calling me home, and it could be today. It could be 50 years from now. I don't know. But the point is not, okay, well, I'm going to try and make it till whatever. It's however much time you have, What are you doing with it here? How are you living your life in light of eternity? I know that phrase is cliche, but and realize that God, the promise from God is that He's always with you, even when it doesn't feel like it. That is we can recognize that is more valuable of a promise than if He said, I will always deliver you from anything. And I don't think we think that. Yeah, I think if we were given the option, red pill, blue pill, in honor of the new Matrix movie coming out, God can either be with you through all of your struggles, or He will just automatically save you from any kind of difficulty. I think most of us would say, well, get me out of the difficulty, get me out of the challenge, make sure I don't have to deal with that. And I'm saying that with me as well. And I think that means we need to pray that God changes our mindset, because the promise that He's always going to be with us is more valuable, is greater, is a better promise than the promise that would be if He said, I'll take all this stuff away from you.
Oh yeah, just remember the things we'd miss out on. If I would much rather have God with me through every moment of this breath that I'm taking called life, instead of me being on my own, get in trouble, pick up the bat phone, call God, and then he's there for that moment and then gone.
Yeah.
That would be so more depressing, I think, than because you're on a high for that moment and then you have that letdown that God's not with you.
And we have that feeling, and we don't even know what that feels like. Nobody does. Even people who aren't believers don't know what that feels like. He's not with them in the same way that He's with His Christians. What I mean by God has never turned His back on them, in the sense that they live in a world where God isn't there, if that makes sense. So nobody has experienced what Jesus experienced. But I bet if you offered that choice to a lot of people, they would choose just get me out of any of my problems.
Yes. Yeah. Just be my safety net. And,
that's how people treat God.
Yeah.
That's how they treat Him. People who never pray, something bad happens. Hey, will you pray that I get out of this? Will you pray that God does this? And then again, there's nothing inherently wrong with thanking God for winning a football game. But God, do you really think God cares who won the Bama A&M football game?
No.
Do you think that's His? Tyson Fury? You think God cares who won the Tyson Fury Deontay Wilder fight?
Yeah, He's focused on the Cowboys. Come on.
Yeah. It's entertainment, guys. Like, life is way greater, bigger than that. So
and it's not the win. Hopefully they thank, for the, I don't know. Yeah. I don't know.
You can always
talk
God,
another hour on this. Yeah.
If you're gonna, and this might be a good practice for, and I'm saying this for me, for everybody. The next time you want to thank God for something, start with, or maybe just thank God for being there with you. Like, let's make that a regular habit of, you're going through the stuff with a heart attack, and you can thank God for the great doctors, for saving your life, all those things, and you can, because He did. I'm not saying that God doesn't do those things. God did deliver Rakshak and Benny from the fire. God does do miracles. I don't want anybody to think that I'm saying He doesn't. But you can always thank God for being with you. And so I think if we did that, I mean, you could start your day with, often I wake up and I thank God for another day. In that moment, you can say, thank you, God, for another day, and thank you for being with me. I know you're going to be with me through whatever happens today.
Yeah. And the mindset of, if God does deliver you, I mean, awesome, right? I mean, that's a great thing, but what are we going to do with that gift?
That's a great point too.
So, hopefully, and I've shared this before, and I'll share it again, just because, it's important to me as God gave me, God gave me another day. What am I doing? I haven't had this big change of lifestyle. What I asked God was I want to do more of what I'm doing. Yeah. I want to do more of just stuff just like this, interacting with people, walking with you, it was like, so I didn't like, oh no, I need to stop doing this and start doing this. It's like, God, you have blessed me, allow me to continue and then add to. So sometimes it's not a life change either, right? It's like, thank you for what you've given me. And I'd like to do it tomorrow too.
Amen. Well, that's a great point to end it on. Thank you for your insight. I hope that was encouraging to people out there. I know it was me. I go back to it all the time, and maybe people are sick of me reading Revelation 21, but I don't know. There's something about it. But Jimmy's, I think we're going to continue our A Faith to Lose Your Head Over series, which is a great October series. I'm still waiting for the John the Baptist head on the platter thing. We'll see about that.
Oh,
But,
yeah.
But you got 15 minutes to get up here, and we'll start.
All right. We'll see you.
I'll
Thanks,
see
everyone.
you, Jeff. All right, everybody. I love you guys. We'll see you.